It is my decision now that I announce today before you that no Kenosha law enforcement officer in this case will be charged with any criminal offense based on the facts and the laws as I will describe them to you now. So it is our decision that no charge will be filed. I'm going to also tell you, just because I think it is important, that no charge will be filed against Jacob Blake in regards to this incident as well. For many of the same reasons, in terms of an overall discussion about this case, that is not something that the District Attorney's Office intends to pursue.
All right, so that's the decision. Now remember what the reaction was to the video going viral, right? The outrage in the community. Well, now that same community is getting news tonight that there will be no charges brought against any of the officers involved in the case. That's the decision by the district attorney. So let's see what's happening on the ground in Kenosha tonight. Joining us from Kenosha, Wisconsin, from WTMJ, our great affiliate and Milwaukee reporter, Tom Durian is with us. Tom, it looks quiet behind you. What's happening tonight in light of this decision by the DA?
Yeah, Vinny, this was the epicenter of all that you showed, the video that you showed of the unrest that happened here back in August in the summer after the shooting and the fires and the shooting with Kyle Rittenhouse, who you talked about. That was just a half mile down this road that's right behind me. Look, tonight, you can see that it's very quiet here. There are fences that are up around the county courthouse here and around this entire complex where the police department and the sheriff's office and everything sit here in Kenosha. And then back over to the other side here, you'll see Civic Center Park. This is where, if you were watching with us back in August, they had to force the protesters out of this park after curfew with tear gas and flashbang grenades and a lot of other artillery in this park. It was full of people. If we were standing here in August, our eyes would be tinging from the tear gas in the air right where we're standing right now. But tonight, very, very quiet around the streets of Kenosha. There's a small group that appears to be protesting, walking around the streets, but we haven't seen them here yet. They haven't made it over here, so they are a very small group going around the streets of Kenosha tonight.
Tom, has word not spread, or is it more, I see snow on the ground, it's the middle of winter, it's cold, have people lost interest in the case? What's the local take on the lack of reaction tonight versus the reaction to that video?
Well, I think all of what you talked about there could be factors in this, except for the word not spreading. I think the common theme here in Kenosha by the folks that were protesting, that were out here for days and weeks on end after this shooting, was that they were disheartened by today's decision, but that they weren't surprised. In the last 24 hours, the council here gave the mayor the ability to declare an emergency and put up a curfew and close down city parks and places like that if he wanted to, should there be any unrest. And I think to a lot of people here in the city, across the nation, they decided that they already knew what the answer was, what the charging decision was going to be, although the mayor and the police chief said they did not know until it was released to the public by the district attorney, Michael Gravely, who you played there earlier. So I think that the city is now moving forward. Every building around this area is boarded up with Kenosha Strong painted on it. That happened immediately after what happened in August, and most of them have stayed that way until right now. They were eagerly awaiting nervously awaiting this decision and what might happen. But again, an increased presence of National Guard troops here, more than 500 in the area, and they're very visible. And that is different from back in August, where they kind of stayed out of the limelight until they were needed. This time they are visible. They are on street corners back here at the courthouse and across the area, across the city, really.
And Tom, one final question, because here at Court TV, we've covered a bunch of stories out of Kenosha, and we really don't know what that city is about. What is it like? How would you describe Kenosha?
Kenosha is about 40 miles south of Milwaukee. It's probably about 50 or 60 miles north of Chicago. There are people that work in both cities and live here, so it's a little bit of a bedroom community for those two bigger cities. Back in the day, Kenosha in the 60s used to be a place where they built cars, AMC cars. And so after the industry kind of left this area, it is a little less of a big city than it was back then. So people live here, as I said, they work in the two different cities. But there's two separate factions of people here. The divide that we see across the country is very, very alive and well here in Kenosha. It's a city that just barely went for President Trump in the 2016 election and was going to flip in this last election. And so the political divide is also great here. So Kenosha is one of those cities, though, that is looking to the rest of the country for what they've done. You mentioned Minneapolis earlier, for what's happened in other cities. How do you move forward from this? And they are working together. The mayor says they made a lot of progress, and they're hoping that there's no unrest or any type of problems tonight that will set them back from that.
All right, we'll keep an eye on it tonight, and hopefully nothing stirs up, but of course we'll keep an eye on it for all our viewers. Tom Durian from WTMJ, great to have you on the show tonight. Appreciate your time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, joining us now, Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, who was monitoring a very long and lengthy and in-depth press conference today. We'll get to that in a moment, but I wanted to start with any reaction that we heard tonight from the family of Jacob Blake and the folks who were supporting Jacob Blake and what happened.
Yes, a reaction from the family and supporters of Jacob Blake and Jacob Blake himself, his family saying he's immensely disappointed in the prosecutor's decision not to bring charges against the officer who shot him 7 times in the back. The statement from the family attorneys today also expressing that same disappointment, saying that we feel this decision failed not only Jacob and his family, but the community that protested and demanded justice. Officer Shesky's actions sparked outrage and advocacy throughout the country, but the district attorney's decision not to charge the officer who shot Jacob in the back multiple times, leaving him paralyzed, further destroys trust in our justice system. This sends the wrong message to police officers throughout the country. In fact, in a press conference today, right after the announcement, Blake's family says that he's still recovering in the hospital. He's still in serious condition. His uncle Justin spoke to a group that gathered this afternoon. Let's listen to him as well as one of the attorneys' reaction.
The reason we wore Carhartts today is to let our people know we got work to do. It's not time to be cute. It's time to put on some working boots and get in this game. We need each and every African descendant to get up and rise up, Morris Americans, etc. And those that believe that Black Lives Matter, stand up around this nation. And let's let them know we're not going to tolerate this anymore. I need a lot of noise. I need you to get in people's face. Martin Luther King went to jail. John Lewis went to jail for us. Don't be scared to go to jail. We're asking to be aggressive. We built this nation, yet we don't reap the benefits of the liberties that this nation has to offer. It's outrageous, it's unconscionable, and it ends in 2021.
There was more than sufficient evidence to find probable cause to charge Officer Shesky. We believe that there were certain standard operating procedures that Officer Shesky should have followed that were not followed. There was no de-escalation. And we believe that the shooting an individual 7 times while walking away from the officer is nothing less than intentional. We don't need a 2-hour explanation for what our eyes can see. So we're immensely disappointed with that. It takes 20 seconds to watch that video to find probable cause, and it took them over 4 months. There's three justice systems in America. There's one for black and brown people, one for police officers, and one for the rest of America. And we won't stop until there is actually truly one nation under God with justice and liberty for us all. And we won't stop until we get there.
That was attorney Biavri Lamar, one of the family attorneys, saying that they will pursue civil action against the city due to the injuries Blake is suffering. And they hope that Officer Shesky, who is a 7-year veteran of the force, he's 31 years old, they hope that even though he's not being charged criminally, Vinny, that he will still lose his job. Also, a reason why there may not be so much action there at the court square is during this press conference, the family, Uncle Justin, said that the family is not marching tonight. They're going to wait. They're not going to have an emotional response. They will march sometime in the future to honor the message and of Jacob Blake's injuries and the story they want to carry there and across the country.
You know, it was a very long, detailed briefing today at the press conference. I want to play one piece of it because there was a lot of questions. I remember looking at that video, examining him. You know, did he have a weapon? Did he not have a weapon? And the DA approached that subject. Hey, let's take a listen.
Here is the beginning of much of the video that all of you have seen. Okay, so this is Jacob Blake as he begins to circle around the car. Officers are now keeping their distance. They're at gunpoint. And that's because officers have told us and DCI that they all, at that point, had seen him with a knife. And so they are keeping their distance in accordance with their training, and I believe Noble Ray will talk about that briefly with you as well. So at this point, I don't think you can see the knife. He walks around the vehicle, and you may have seen it there. This is an enhanced video, DCI doing the maximum they can do. There's a glimpse of the knife. The far left is that knife in his hand. Jacob Blake admits that. Jacob Blake admits to DCI that he had a knife in his hand, and that's what that is. It's not a cell phone. It's nothing else. He admits it. The knife itself is pictured there. It's a razor blade type knife. And then we had DCI, an analyst, take the shape of the knife and the size and match it to the picture to see if in fact it fit size and shape, and in fact it is a match. So we say with confidence, based on Blake's admission, based on all the officers saying it, and this video evidence, he clearly is armed with a knife as he walks around and approaches the driver's door. Okay? Clearly armed with a knife in that situation. All the discussion that he's unarmed contradicts even what he himself has said multiple times to investigators.
And Chanley, it seemed like the major factor that really pushed the decision today was that the officer said that Blake was turning towards him with the knife at the moment he fired the weapon, something that gets obscured by the car door that you really don't see in the video.
Yes, he broke that down in detail, even stepping aside from the microphone to demonstrate what he says witnesses described as the movement when Blake is getting into his vehicle. He turns and twists his torso. His arm, according to the prosecutor, goes under with the knife. That's when he says Officer Shesky felt threatened that he was going to be stabbed by the knife and then shot Blake until he dropped the knife. And it took, I guess, 7 gunshots to do so. He says that this was corroborated by the officer, the female officer next to Shesky. She also saw the twist, as well as 2 other citizen witnesses in the area, the prosecutor says corroborates that story.
And again, one other thing that was clarified today was that the gunshots, that there were 3 that were actually on the side, not in his back, but on the side, just under the armpit, and then the 4 others were in his back. Again, great reporting, Chanley. I know you're going to come back because we're going to talk about the other story out of Kenosha today. Kyle Rittenhouse, that's coming up next hour. Thanks so much, Chanley. When we come back, we've got big news and another big case that we're covering here on Court TV, the George Floyd case. Exclusive interview that Court TV had. Julie Janae spoke with the brother of Thomas Lane, the officer who first approaches George Floyd, the first one there. His brother speaking with us exclusively. You don't want to miss it. That's coming up next.